A few months ago, I did a video entirely dedicated to tips and tricks for analyzing BTS's music videos and songs. Appropriately called How to Analyze BTS, the video discussed my opinion that any BTS analysis should first begin with curiosity about the lyrics of a song, its subject matter, or the visuals in the music video. Near the end of that video, I also briefly introduced another question: why analyze BTS? While I didn't answer that question in great depth, I did talk about my belief that BTS's albums, songs, and music videos are forms of art and storytelling. Therefore, I think they deserve to be analyzed like art or stories are. Even more than that, I believe many BTS songs, and BTS themselves, express important messages that have the potential to help many people, especially when those messages are emphasized. Obviously, every listener will take away something different, but just the act of exploring these interpretations is, in my eyes, extremely valuable. When I made that video, a few of my commenters pointed out that BTS songs feature not only the boys' thoughts and feelings, but also a lot of additions from other writers and producers. Meanwhile, their music videos are brought to life by a lot of creative minds coming together. They reminded me that, when we analyze BTS's work, we're analyzing the work of many people too. All of this is very true, and I was glad for the reminder, especially since it convinced me even more that analysis of this work is important because of all the context that goes into making it. I don't doubt that a lot of us here love BTS's story, of how they started off as nobodies who were dismissed and disrespected, and worked their way up to become modern musical icons. The story of their lives and hard work is reflected in their music, even in songs and videos that don't seem like they're related to this theme. Like I said in that previous video, I think it's perfectly possible to just listen to a song and enjoy it without having to analyze every little thing, deep dive into every bit of context, and explore each reference. But I still believe that doing a little digging and seeing the story of BTS reflected in their musical journey makes being an ARMY even more rewarding. At least, it's certainly true in my case. So today, I wanted to briefly return to this question of why we as ARMY should analyze BTS's work when we can, and why I believe the act of doing so helps their legacy as a band and our legacy as a fandom. I know that may sound a little overdramatic, but recently I've seen a lot of instances where I think this is actually very essential, so I wanted to take the time to make this video and explain my point of view on it. Because of this, I admit this video might be a little less technical and formal than some of my previous videos. While all of my analysis is of course heavily based on my own thoughts and feelings, this is probably also going to be a bit more skewed to my own experiences than I otherwise try to be with my analysis. This is in large part because I was inspired to make this video due to things I've seen in some corners of the fandom right now, and because newer BTS-related media feels somehow incomplete to me. Additionally, at the time of making this video, all 7 members of BTS are currently completing their mandatory military service, which I believe makes this conversation all the more meaningful and timely. So, without further ado, I hope you'll join me as I take a brief look at why we should analyze BTS. Released on July 9th, 2023, the book titled BTS Beyond the Story is described as a 10-year record of BTS, following each part of their history from debut to the modern day. Later in 2023, there also came a docuseries released on the streaming platform Disney Plus called BTS Monuments Beyond the Star. Seemingly, both of these pieces of media seek to show us stories we've never seen before, giving us insights into the life and process of BTS that have otherwise not been explored. However, despite the efforts made by these pieces of media, I still find myself wanting more. That's not to say either piece of media is bad, of course. They're just not what I was expecting. I'm also certainly not saying I could do any better. As I said in my introduction video, I'm just an ARMY in my late 20s who loves BTS and learned the basics of video making simply because I really wanted to talk about them and their music. I have no formal training on the matter, and no formal education on any of the subjects I discuss on the channel. I simply discuss them because I'm passionate about them, and because I passionately believe these things are worth discussing. When it comes to these two pieces of media, I admit that it would probably be nearly impossible for any single book or show to get to the core of BTS entirely. But I feel that both the show and the book lack certain elements of important context that, at least in my view, represent BTS's artistic journey. While these two pieces of media in particular may be trying to take a more bird's-eye view of the members' personal journey than the journey of the band as a whole, I think this is an unfortunate oversight. Again, while I don't think I or anyone else could necessarily do it better, I do want to explore some of those elements that seem to be missing and why I think they're important, especially since I think they'll help us answer the question at the core of this video. As ARMYs, one of the questions we may find ourselves getting asked by people is why we like BTS in the first place. What drew us to music that, for many of us, is in a different language or from a different culture? What makes us want to spend our money not only on concerts and merchandise, but on charity efforts and things to make the members themselves happy? Why is our relationship with BTS different from that of other fandoms and artists? Even BTS themselves have asked that question, as they do in the song We Are Bulletproof the Eternal, when they ask why we're still walking with them. Obviously, those answers will differ for each of us, but they all point to a bigger question that society seems to want to ask underneath it all. Why is BTS successful? Again, even BTS themselves bring up this question. Lately, I've been coming back to the song Run BTS off of the 2022 album Proof. During his rap verse, Suga asks this same question and gives a simple answer: we all just ran. But it's the way he phrases the question that really interests me. The reason for Bangtan's success? I don't know either. Is there even one? In my eyes, this also mirrors RM's description of BTS and ARMY both being like miracles, as he said during 2021's Festa. For many people, the members included if these statements are anything to go by, BTS's success is something undefinable. And, as Suga says in Run BTS, maybe it is. But in my eyes, this is why analyzing BTS and their work is so important, because I believe we get glimpses of an answer when we do. Of course, the success of BTS over the years has been based on a lot of factors, some that were in the members' control, like how hard they worked, and some that were not, such as their circumstances at various times. However, I think that something that remains a constant factor, regardless of whether they were in a tough time or an overall successful time, is that BTS's music has fit a certain context that makes it resonate with people. For an example of why I think this, I'd like to turn to the 2013 song No. If you watched my How to Analyze video, you'll know I spent a great deal of time talking about No and how it functions to critique the Korean school system. However, without context, the song somewhat exists in a vacuum. That's why I think it's important for us as ARMY, and for anyone who wants to analyze BTS's success, to look at what these songs really mean for the time period in which they were written and released, and No is a great example of this. When you do a little research about the school system in South Korea, we can suddenly see why this song is important. I myself am not Korean, so I feel I'm not exactly qualified to speak to the realities of what it must be like to be a student in South Korea and to be burdened with those pressures to succeed by both family and society. However, it doesn't take much research to see that criticisms of the school system are common, nor does it take much to imagine how impactful a song like No must have been for students who found themselves exhausted or overwhelmed by trying to succeed in this atmosphere. Without this context, No just seems like a title track off of an album that didn't do as well as BTS and Big Hit had hoped at the time, something described in Beyond the Story. This fact is certainly important to BTS's history and the history of their struggles without a doubt. But in my opinion, ignoring the song or generalizing that particular part of this era only paints part of a picture. When we analyze No in the broader context, we can see it not just as a flashy title track with a dramatic music video, but as an important bit of social commentary and a necessary call to arms. It fits into the mosaic of BTS giving hope to the hopeless and offering a new path for people otherwise trapped by old ways of thinking, all of which I believe are valuable lessons that many people crave, not just back in 2013 in South Korea, but all over the world nowadays as well. This notion doesn't just exist for No or for BTS's early work. Rather, I believe it extends to every BTS era. For another example, Look at something like the entire Love Yourself era as a whole. Over the years, Love Yourself as a mantra has become very important to BTS and to the fandom, but it's more than just a slogan or a series of albums. Rather, it's become a way of life to many people, all because of how BTS handled this subject matter and told stories around it. For instance, the era and its theme spawned the Love Myself campaign in partnership with UNICEF, leading to a multi-year campaign that uses this message as part of global efforts to protect children and young people. This was all encapsulated by RM's 2018 speech at the United Nations on the subject of self-love and self-acceptance, which you may remember is personally dear to me because it's the reason I became an ARMY in the first place. Of course, this was also expressed through music both before this era and throughout it. Think of impactful songs like Epiphany or Answer Love Myself, and the powerful, resonant messages that continue to help people to this day. These things are meaningful for a number of reasons: the time they were released, what they mean to the members personally as expressions of their story, what they mean to the individual fans who interpret them, and how the songs grew along with BTS during this era, leading to new emotions to experience and express. To me, these things prove that BTS songs are more than just music. They're messages, artistic expressions, and powerful formative tools. Before they became known as HYBE, the big hit logo featured in every official BTS music video's opening conveyed a powerful message: music and artists for healing. The logo may be a thing of the past, but the message remains just as valuable as ever, and I believe that healing can begin when we go looking for the depths of these songs. That is why I analyze BTS, and why I think every ARMY should too. As a channel called the ARMY Theorist Corner, obviously my purpose is to discuss what I think certain BTS songs and music videos might mean. But more than that, I think we should also have conversations about what BTS songs and music videos might mean to people. Do these songs provide hope? Then I think we should talk about that. Do they encourage people to hang on in the face of trials, or to embrace themselves, or to look deep inside themselves? Then shouldn't those things be celebrated? I don't mean for any of this to sound pretentious or overwrought, especially since there is of course more to BTS than just the concept of their artistry or the lyrics to their songs. Maybe you're here for the dancing, or the personalities of the members themselves, or the fact that they make you laugh. All of those things are valid, and it's a great idea to not always take things too seriously, of course. But if at any point in your ARMY journey a BTS song touched your heart, I believe that feeling alone is a great reason to analyze BTS, celebrate their work, and express your thoughts about it. Like I said, this video is a bit different than the ones I've done so far, but I hope you nevertheless enjoyed it. Now I'd love to turn this discussion over to all of you. How and why do you analyze BTS's work? In what ways does their story speak to you? Also, what do you think of this slightly shorter, more casual format? If that's something you enjoy, I may try to do it more often in addition to my regular videos, so let me know what you think. As always, I look forward to hearing all your thoughts on this topic. Until next time.